So you'll recall that at the beginning of the episode, we're introduced to Brandy, who had been essentially groomed by Jason, and then he sent her ugly pictures. Brandy never went back to the industry. But one day, Brandy's mom gets a phone call from the police. Remember, Brandy's mom hadn't bothered herself to call the police lest he think she'd be a bad mother. So she just let that predator roam free and didn't say anything to anybody. But somebody decided to bestir themselves and get the police involved. And the police called her and said, "Do you know the name Jason Handy?" And the mom's like, "I'm very familiar with Jason Handy." And they said, "Can we talk to Brandy? Because we've found his house has been raided. Another child had been preyed upon by Jason. In that scenario, the parents had let it go even further. Jason had been at their house playing video games with their daughter in her room with the door closed. And Jason had tried to kiss the girl, and the girl freaked out about it and told her parents, and the parents told the police, and the police raided his house and found ridiculous amounts of child. You know what I'm saying? And so not only that, but little baggies with girls' names on them, with little things inside the baggies, letters, notes. One 7-year-old child had somehow managed to get Jason a pair of her underwear. So yeah, the police wanted to talk to Brandy. So Brandy tells her story, and they've got the story of the other little girl who he was in, who he tried to kiss. And so Jason's arrested. Now the PA, let me tell you, is given 16 years in jail for his crimes. And then he's got a registered sex offender when he comes out, right? Okay, good, right? Got that guy. And the mom, like I said earlier, is really offended because she's like, Nickelodeon never apologized. But Nickelodeon had bigger fish to fry, because not about 4 months later, yet one more person goes down. And this guy's name was Brian Peck. Peck had been a member on that crew since the beginning. He was part of the Dan Schneider machine. He was a dialogue coach officially, but he also had this weird little bit part that he did on the shows, this weird returning character of this guy that they called Pickle Boy.
Pickle Boy likes to hurt and tease pickles.
What does that mean? Like, what is that joke? And he's like this soundless individual who just walks around making a lot of facial expressions with his giant tray of pickles, offering people pickles, but like never saying anything. It's like, what is this character? What is this joke? And everyone's like, Dan Schneider's got the craziest sense of humor. That joker. Who could ever figure him out? Not us. But if he thinks pickles are funny, the kids probably do too. Dan's got that way. He knows what the kids like. But even the kids on this show were like, we didn't get the pickle thing. And the mom, who supposedly was causing all that problem, she's like, those, nobody else sees what those look like, but nobody did, supposedly. So Brian Peck was a guy that was on set all the time. He played with the kids all the time. They played Nintendo with the kids, foosball with the kids. He was just always around, and everybody loved him. Everyone trusted him. He knew how to make everybody laugh. The parents thought he was hilarious. They loved him. It was just one thing after another. He had people over to his house for big barbecues. Everybody knew him. Everybody liked him, and nobody suspected him. And, at first you want to be like, yeah, that's kind of the Pickle Boy thing is weird, but maybe he didn't come up with that. Maybe it really was like, Dan does have that weird sense of humor. And if that was all you'd ever seen about him, it's like a dumb joke he didn't write, So the Pickle Boy thing is weird, but if everything else about him was just like this fun guy on set, why would you suspect him? Well, I tell you when you could have started suspecting him. At one of these barbecues, he has everybody over to the house. And one cast member was talking about how it was odd at this guy's house. Because his house he had a nice house, but he had this one room that was devoted all to comic books and old kids' toys. And on the one hand, you want to say, well, that's kind of weird, but I wouldn't think that would make anybody a predator. They're just a collector, right? And especially of old things. He loved old Hollywood. He loved... it all kind of fits in together, this nostalgia for old America, the old comic books from, the 30s, the old toys and all this Americana, right? And then his garage was set up like this set of Planet of the Apes. It was like the shrine to the Planet of the Apes. But this one boy, this cast member, he said that he went into the garage and there was a picture that really stood out to him because it didn't match the theme of Planet of the Apes. It was a clown, a birthday clown holding some balloons. And so he asked Peck about it. He's like, Brian, what's that? And he gets all excited. And he's like, let me show you. Let me show you. You won't believe this. Turns the picture around, and on the back, it is inscribed to him by who do you think? John Wayne Gacy, the serial killer. Now, to this boy's credit, he's like, that's wild. And he goes and he's like, hey, y'all, look what he's got. And he brings all these people in. Does Peck act like he needs to keep that a secret? He's telling everybody, yeah, you won't believe it. Look who it is. But it's not like this weird one-off where he had this picture from the serial killer, which how would you ever get your hands on that? But it is inscribed to Brian, all right? But then Brian brings them inside into his room, opens the bedside table drawer, and pulls out a stack of letters and pictures from the serial killer. Letting them read them. Look at this. Isn't this crazy? I got all these letters. Like, he's proud of it. He's not hiding it. John Wayne Gacy killed and tortured young boys. Okay? A sicko, if ever there was one. So at what point did the parents who were at that party go, ooh, I don't like this? At no point did any parent go, my kid's never working with Brian again. Anybody who wants to have a pen pal relationship with a serial killer isn't somebody that my kid's going to hang around with. You'd think. Well, no parent bothered to bestir themselves. But 4 months after Jason Handy is thrown into the slammer, it comes to light that Brian Peck has 16 counts against him for harming a child, and that he has been pulled off Nickelodeon, and he too will be serving some time. Now we're going to get into the time that he served, but that's for another episode. For now, let it just lay there right here. Nickelodeon sits the cast down for a table reading of their next show because the show must go on, right? We've lost Jason, we've lost Brian, but the show must go on. And they sit all the kids down for the table reading. The parents are in the room. There's a bunch of people there that the kids don't know, but they're like, whatever, maybe they're just people from Nickelodeon. Dan stands up and dismisses the parents and says, hey, we need to talk to the kids for a minute. Can you guys head out? The parents do it. What? Like, I would be like, what are you about to tell my kid that I can't know about? Why were all these parents so trusting of these people they don't know? You don't know Dan Schneider. Anyway, the parents are like, okay. And they all get up and they walk out. At which point, they tell the kids that Brian Peck's not coming back. And they lay out for the kids that he has been accused of hurting a kid. They don't know. It's a John Doe. Nobody knows who it is. In fact, even the people, the cast members who are being interviewed for this documentary had not heard who it was. They did not know who it was. They didn't even know it was somebody that they knew. They thought it might just be a child out in the world that he'd hurt. Anyway, they are told, the children at the table are told, hey, there's some allegations against him, so we're going to let him go. Do you guys have anything to say? Anything to add? Like, what kid, if he has been abused repeatedly by an adult, would suddenly at this point at a table reading with all of his friends and then a bunch of people that they don't know be like, oh, I have a story to tell? Who was expecting a hand raise in that scenario? Anyway, everyone sits there like crickets, and then they let the kids go and they're like, okay, all right, thanks. Well, just want to let you guys know Brian's not going to be hanging around anymore. And that was that. And then nobody ever talked about it again. Like, there was a little bit of like, what happened to Brian? But it was all swept under the rug. Like, let's just get it over with. We're done. And then the episode ends where the different cast members are like, we never knew who it was. We wondered to this day who it was. Like, when did it happen? How did it happen? Who did it happen to? We didn't have any of the details. And then the episode ends with Drake Bell taking a seat. And he's the one that was abused at the hands of Brian Peck. And the next episode is his whole story. And it's solely devoted to his story because he had never told it before this documentary. Now, it's no bombshell that I'm telling you. Everybody knows now that's who it was. But his experience is so dark and terrible. And he doesn't spell it out for us. I mean, he can't even, I have never seen anybody so hurt and uncomfortable discussing something that had happened to them, like to the point they can't get their words out about it. And my heart just went out for him so much. Like, I just get chills thinking about like how hard that must have been to sit in front of a camera and talk about that. And it shouldn't have happened to him because his dad actually was watching out for him. And that's the sad thing about this whole story, is that he actually had parents who were very involved, a dad who really loved him. If there was ever a person who should not have found himself in that scenario, it should have been Drake Bell.